We are going to end our study of South Asia by looking at the situation that exists between India and Pakistan. As you certainly recall, in 1947, through the partition, South Asia broke up into the countries that we see on the map today. India became India, Pakistan became Pakistan. But from that moment, India and Pakistan have had serious problems with each other. There have been multiple wars, many more skirmishes, and lots of bad blood. It centers primarily on an area called Jammu and Kashmir. We're just generally going to refer to it as Kashmir. Here's a map of India and Pakistan. And you can see up here in the north, this is where Jammu and Kashmir, or what we're going to refer to as Kashmir, is at. So this takes a little of historic explanation. When the British were in charge of South Asia, they allowed the maintenance of what were known as princely states. These were like mini kingdoms. They took a page from the Romans. If you recall how the Romans handled their empire, once they conquered somebody, in a lot of cases they would allow the indigenous kingdom to maintain itself. As long as they were giving allegiance to the Romans, they were fine. If you rebelled against the Romans, they smashed you. You know, the most famous example of this is Herod and Jesus. Herod was able to remain a king in that area there in the Eastern Mediterranean because he was willing to have allegiance to the Romans. And so the Romans allowed him to maintain his kingdom. Well, the British did a very similar thing in the areas they conquered. Remember, England's not a very big place. And so they couldn't physically occupy every place that they had taken over. And so in the case of South Asia, they allowed these princely states to exist. And these princely states had allegiance to the British throne. And then in 1947, the whole area broke up and became independent. And when it did, it broke up, as you know, along religious lines. India and Nepal became primarily Hindu countries. Pakistan and East Pakistan were primarily Muslim, and Bhutan and Sri Lanka were primarily Buddhist countries. In Kashmir, there had been a Hindu ruler, which might seem like it should tilt it over towards India. Because what happened with all those princely states was they were just folded into the country that surrounded them or that was the majority of the population. But at the same time, the majority of people there are Muslims, which would seem to tilt it towards Pakistan. But the prince who controlled that area attempted to maintain power after partition. And as a result of that, Pakistan attacked. And they attacked because it was a Muslim majority country. But because he was Hindu, he called on India to save him. And so India attacked. And essentially, that area there has been in a stalemate ever since. If you look at this map, you can see where it's at. Even up there at the northern part of the area, there's a dispute between India and China along the border. So it's not just one disputed border area. There's multiple disputes along this border. In fact, even with China recently, India and China had a skirmish that I think it killed a few people. I don't know on both sides, but at least on one side. Well, India and Pakistan both claim the entirety of that area there. And it's this area that's up in the mountains, a beautiful area in a lot of ways. It's the source of the Indus River. But at the same time, they both claim it. The problem here is they are both nuclear powers. So weirdly enough, along that very long boundary that they share with each other, there is one place where you can cross the border. And you can see here's where it's at. India-Pakistan border, 1 kilometer. And then Lahore, which is in Pakistan, 23 kilometers away. This is the Wagah border crossing. And what happens at the Wagah border crossing is this. The one place where you can cross by foot between India and Pakistan, and as far as I know, there are no flights that go between the countries. They really do not like each other. But the people in both countries are fantastic. In the morning, this border crossing opens up. At night, it closes, and there's a big ceremony that happens every night when the border crossing is closed. The guys in the red hats, which are colonial hats, by the way, from the British Empire, those are the Indians. The guys in the black hats, those are the Pakistanis. So you can see how close they are to each other. You can also see BSF here. That's Border Security Forces. What both sides do is this. They use Punjabis and Sikhs as their primary force in that area because the Sikhs, the men, are very tall. I'm a tall person. I felt short there because the men are very, very big. And it's an attempt to intimidate the other side. And then you can see here, that's the Pakistani flag. That's the Indian flag because you are looking into Pakistan right there on the other side. I took this picture on the Indian side. I will tell you something. I have a student, a fantastic person, who went to India and then she went to Pakistan a year later. And she crossed through that very border. And what she did, she said the people on the Pakistani side cheered for her. It was very interesting. And she sent me an email after having been in Pakistan for a couple of weeks. And her comment on Pakistan was, Pakistan is the land of hospitality and love. Would you have expected that when you hear about Pakistan? What we hear about these places in the news? The people in these places are great. Unfortunately, there are really bad issues and there's really big guns. And this can result in terrible situations. But individually, the people in both of these countries are awesome people and they're really happy that you're there when you're there.